Remove that old man from my elevator!
Halima George's voice cracked across the marble lobby like a whip. Before anybody could move, Yusuf seized the elderly man by the arm and dragged him backwards. His wooden walking stick struck the floor. His weak leg folded beneath him. Nwosu rushed forward and caught him before his head hit the marble. "Leave him!" she shouted. Every face in the lobby turned. Halima marched closer in her magenta suit, her crimson heels clicking like warning shots. "You are only a contract file clerk," she hissed. "Your entire salary cannot buy one button on my jacket. Pick your level before poverty makes you foolish." Ease slowly helped the old man stand. Then she placed herself between him and the security guards. "His clothes may not impress you, Ma," she said, her voice trembling but firm, "but he is still a human being." The lobby went dead silent. Halima tore Easy's staff card from her neck. "You are fired. Search her bag. Search the old beggar, too." What none of them knew was that the man they had just humiliated was the CTO's father. And before that week ended, somebody inside that building would beg for mercy. Do not miss what happened next. Subscribe now, and tell us in the comments where you are listening from and your local time. At 8:16 that Monday morning, Meridian Heights looked less like an office building and more like a glassed palace waiting for royalty. The 23-story tower stood on Amadou Bello Way in Victoria Island, polished until the Lagos sun broke into silver pieces across its windows. Inside the lobby, imported flowers stood in tall black vases. The air smelled of citrus and expensive furniture polish. 4 stainless steel elevators faced the reception desk, their doors opening and closing with quiet electronic chimes. Everything had been arranged to impress. That was the problem. By 9 a.m., a delegation of investors from Johannesburg and Accra was expected to arrive for a property financing meeting. Halima George, the director of corporate services, had been in the building since 6:43 a.m., checking flowers, staff uniforms, bottled water, light fittings, and even the shine on the brass rails. She had built her career on one belief: people respected what looked expensive. At 39, Halima knew how to enter a room before her perfume reached it. Her magenta suit had been tailored in London. Her crimson heels were high enough to force everyone to hear her approach. A slim gold watch rested on her wrist, and when she spoke, she never raised her voice unless she wanted somebody to remember their place. That morning, she wanted everybody to remember. She stood near the elevators and watched a cleaner wheel a bucket across the far side of the lobby. "You there," she snapped. The cleaner froze. "Yes, Ma?" "Use the service corridor." "Can you not see we have serious visitors coming? Must people see mop water before they see our reception?" The woman lowered her eyes and turned the bucket around. Halima faced Yusuf Bello, the security supervisor. "Listen carefully. The central elevators are for executives, investors, and approved guests until 10:30. Dispatch riders, vendors, technicians, casual workers, send them to the back." Yusuf adjusted the red-trimmed collar of his charcoal uniform. "Ma, the service elevator is still under maintenance." "Then let them wait. But some people may have deliveries to upper floors." Halima looked at him as if he had brought a goat into the lobby. "Yusuf, did I employ you to debate with me?" "No, Ma, good. Use your head. This is Meridian Heights, not Oshodi Underbridge." There was no written policy allowing her to separate visitors by clothing, occupation, or appearance. But in that building, Halima's instructions often became rules before anybody asked whether they were legal, sensible, or humane. Nwosu arrived at 8:29 a.m., with sweat beneath her turquoise blouse and a brown folder pressed against her chest. She had left her one-room apartment in Ajo at 5:55. The first bus broke down near Chevron. The second moved through traffic like a tired snail. By the time she entered the lobby, she had already apologized twice to a driver, jumped over a gutter, and walked 400 meters because the bus conductor refused to stop where he had promised. Still, she was early. Ease worked as a records clerk through a labor outsourcing company called Primeline Support Services. Her badge carried the Meridian logo, but the small print beneath her photograph said contract personnel. That small print controlled everything. It meant she could work inside the same building as senior managers, but could not eat in their dining area. It meant she handled confidential files, but received no health insurance. It meant her contract could be ended with one email and no proper hearing. Every 6 months, she waited to learn whether she would continue to have work. She hated that waiting, but she needed the money. Her mother's blood pressure medicine cost 18,600 naira every month. Their rent had increased twice in 2 years. Ease had once studied office administration at a polytechnic, but she left in her final year when her mother became ill. Since then, she had been telling herself she would return. One day, that Monday, she carried 17 archived maintenance files from the ground floor records room to the legal review unit on the 17th floor. 3 weeks earlier, she had noticed that some elevator service invoices carried duplicate receipt numbers. She had mentioned it to her immediate supervisor, who told her not to squeeze her face over matters above her salary. So she had written the numbers in a private notebook. Not because she wanted trouble, because she feared trouble was already there. At 8:38 a.m., an old man stepped out of a faded blue taxi near the building entrance. He wore a burnt orange kaftan, an ivory filer, and simple brown leather sandals. The cloth was clean but old. One sleeve had been carefully repaired near the wrist. He leaned on a dark wooden walking stick, and the way he lifted his left leg showed that every step required planning. His name was Samuel Ibe. He was 72 years old. For 34 years, Samuel had worked as a mechanical engineer, specializing in elevators, public access systems, and industrial safety. He had inspected hospital lifts that shook between floors, repaired court elevators abandoned for years, and once spent 11 hours inside a government building because a contractor had installed the wrong brake assembly. He had seen what negligence could do. Now retired and living mostly in Ibadan, Samuel had traveled to Lagos the previous evening. His son had invited him to Meridian Heights to review the technical plans for a new accessibility program aimed at elderly visitors and people with reduced mobility. Samuel's appointment was for 9:30 a.m. He came early because he always came early. His phone had died in the taxi after he spent the journey reading a 47-page engineering report. The driver offered to wait, but Samuel waved him away. "I am not a baby," he said with a smile. "Go and find your next passenger." At the reception desk, a young receptionist looked up. "Good morning, sir. How may I help you?" "Good morning, my daughter. I have an appointment with Mr. Dare Ibe at 9:30. The receptionist typed his name. Nothing appeared. She tried again. "Samuel Ibe?" "Yes. Please, sir, who sent the invitation?" "His office." "Perhaps his assistant." The receptionist searched the executive visitor list. Samuel's name was not there. Dare's assistant had sent the notice to an outdated reception email group at 7:52 that morning. No one at the front desk had seen it. "Sir, do you have a confirmation message?" Samuel reached for his phone, pressed the button, then looked at the blank screen. "My battery has surrendered." The receptionist almost smiled. "I can call upstairs for you." Before she could lift the phone, Halima appeared beside the desk. What is delaying the front area? The receptionist straightened. Ma, this gentleman says he has an appointment with Mr. Ibe. Halima looked Samuel from cap to sandals. She did not ask for his identification. She did not ask what the meeting concerned, she decided. With which Mr. Ibe? Samuel leaned lightly on his stick. Der Ibe. Halima gave a short laugh. The CS. And he invited you? Yes, to discuss what? Samuel looked at her steadily. That is between him and me. Halima's expression hardened. In her world, poor-looking people were allowed to plead, explain, and apologize. They were not allowed to protect their privacy. Yusuf, she called. The security supervisor came at once. This man is claiming he has an appointment with the CEO, but his name is not on the list. Samuel removed his identity card from the inner pocket of his kaftan and placed it on the desk. My name is there. You can call the office. Halima did not touch the card. We have investors arriving. We cannot call the CEO's office every time somebody wears native cloth and invents a relationship. The receptionist shifted uncomfortably. Ma, I can call his assistant. Halima turned sharply. Did I ask you? No, Ma. Then face your screen. Samuel's fingers tightened around the handle of his stick. He had been insulted before. Old age taught a person that some people mistook patience for weakness. But he had also learned that anger could make foolish people feel important. So he stayed calm. My daughter, I am not asking anybody to break a rule. Call the office. If they do not know me, I will leave. Halima checked the lobby clock. 8:41. The investors could arrive at any moment. She pointed toward a row of seats near the outer door. Sit there and wait until after 10:30. Samuel glanced toward the elevators. My appointment is at 9:30. Then you should have dressed like somebody who has one. The words landed softly. That made them worse. Two junior employees looked down at their phones. A visitor pretended to read a brochure. Yusuf stared at the floor. Nobody spoke. Samuel picked up his identity card. At that moment, one of the central elevators opened. 3 employees stepped inside, and a man in a grey suit held the door when he saw Samuel approaching slowly. Come, sir, the man said. Which floor? 21. The man pressed the button. Samuel entered. The doors began to close. Then Halima saw him. Her face changed. Stop that elevator. Yusuf reacted before he thought. He pushed between the doors, caught Samuel by the upper arm and pulled. Samuel's left foot remained inside the cabin for half a second, while the rest of his body moved backwards. The walking stick slipped. His repaired hip twisted. Pain shot through him. His knee collapsed. The stick struck the marble with a sound that sliced through the lobby. Ease was 6 steps away. She dropped her folder and ran. Leave him. She caught Samuel beneath the shoulder just before his head hit the floor. The old man's breath left him in one rough sound. Papers scattered from Ease's folder, sliding beneath polished shoes. For one frozen second, the whole lobby watched. Then Ease looked up at Yusuf. Are you mad? You nearly broke his neck. Yusuf released Samuel as if the old man had become fire. Halima marched forward. What did you say? Ease helped Samuel sit against the low marble wall beside the elevators. I said he nearly fell because your guard dragged him. He was entering a restricted elevator without clearance. He was already inside. You could have stopped the lift and spoken to him. You do not pull an elderly man like a sack of rice. Halima's eyes narrowed. Around them, the lobby had gone so quiet that the soft elevator music sounded insulting. You are only a contract file clerk, Halima said. Your entire salary cannot buy one button on my jacket. Pick your level before poverty makes you foolish. Ease's hands trembled. Not because the insult was new, because she knew what could happen next. She knew contract workers did not win arguments with directors. She knew her mother's medicine would finish in 9 days. She knew her landlord had already warned her about the rent balance. She also knew Samuel was trying not to show pain. That knowledge was heavier. Ys stood. Then she placed herself between him and the security officers. "His clothes may not impress you, Ma," she said, "but he is still a human being." A small sound moved through the lobby. Halima stepped closer until her perfume filled Isy's breath. "You think wearing one bright blouse has promoted you? Look at your shoes. The soul is begging for retirement. Yet you stand here and challenge me in front of guests?" Ys swallowed. "I am challenging what happened, Ma. You are challenging me." "No, I am saying he could have been seriously injured." Halima reached out, hooked one finger beneath Isy's identity lanyard and pulled. The plastic edge scraped Isy's neck before the clip snapped. Halima held the badge up. "Contract personnel," she read. "Even your card is reminding you that you do not belong here." She dropped it. The badge bounced once on the marble. "You are suspended immediately." Ys stared at her. "Ma, you are fired if I decide you are fired." "Yusuf, search her bag. Search the old beggar too. Let us see what they came here to steal." Samuel lifted his head. Until that moment he had allowed Ys to speak, because every movement sent pain through his hip. Now his voice came low and controlled. "You will not search her because she helped me." Halima turned on him. "Old man, keep quiet before I send you outside to sit with the dispatch riders." Samuel looked at her for a long second, not with fear, with recognition. He had seen her kind in many buildings. People who believed a title was evidence of character. People who polished floors and allowed cruelty to stain everything above them. Yusuf opened Isy's brown bag, a purse, 2 pens, a small Bible, her mother's prescription, a wrapped meat pie she had not eaten, a notebook. He found nothing. Another guard patted Samuel's kaftan pockets until Samuel slapped the hand away. "I said enough." His voice carried now. The guard stepped back. Halima pointed toward the entrance. "Both of you, out." Ys bent and picked up Samuel's walking stick. His right hand was bleeding where the skin had scraped the floor. "Sir, can you stand?" "I will try." He tried. His leg buckled again. And still, nobody came forward. The receptionist looked close to tears, but Halima's stare kept her behind the desk. The man in the grey suit, who had held the elevator door, had already left through another lift. Junior employees watched with the guilty stillness of people who planned to say later that they had not known what to do. Ys made her decision. She put Samuel's arm around her shoulder. "Lean on me, sir. My daughter, your job. Job can be found again. A broken bone is not so simple." Halima laughed without humor. "Very touching. Carry him on your head if you like. But do not return to this building until HR sends for you." Ys did not answer. She helped Samuel toward the first aid room at the far end of the lobby. The room was locked. The contract nurse had not arrived. Ys knocked twice, then turned to Yusuf. "Call an ambulance." Halima checked the lobby doors. A black executive bus was entering the driveway. The investors. She lowered her voice. "Take him outside now." Ys looked at her as if seeing her clearly for the first time. Then she brought out her phone and called a nearby clinic herself. While she waited for a car, she wrapped Samuel's bleeding hand with a clean handkerchief from her bag. Samuel watched her fingers. "What is your name?" he asked. "Ys Nwosu." "Ys." He said it once, carefully. Behind them, Halima bent and picked up the large brown envelope Samuel had dropped near the elevator. On the front were 4 words written in blue ink. For Dare eBay. Personal. She turned it over. In the top corner was the sender's name, Samuel eBay. For the first time that morning, uncertainty touched Halima's face, but only for a moment. She handed the envelope to Yusuf. "Put this in my office. Ma, should we not send it upstairs?" Halima watched Is support Samuel through the revolving doors. "No." Her voice became cold. "First, we will make sure this morning disappears." The clinic was only 11 minutes away without traffic. That morning, it took 31. Samuel sat in the back seat of a small ride-hailing car while Is held his walking stick across her knees. Each time the driver entered a pothole, Samuel's jaw tightened. He refused to groan, but the sweat in his forehead told the truth. Is kept looking at him. "Sir, are you feeling dizzy? A little? Any chest pain? No. Can you move your toes?" Samuel looked down at his sandal. "Yes, good." He gave her a tired smile. "You sound like a nurse. My mother has given me enough practice." The smile left her face as soon as the words came out. "Is she unwell?" "High blood pressure. Some days are good. Some days she will say she is managing, but when Nigerian mothers say they are managing, you must check them twice." Samuel laughed softly, then held his hip. "True talk. At the clinic, a receptionist asked for a registration fee of 5,000 naira before the doctor would see him." Samuel reached for his pocket, then remembered his wallet had been in the envelope now sitting in Halima's office. He searched again. "Nothing. My wallet is missing." Is's stomach tightened. "Did you have it before?" It was inside the document envelope. She looked toward the road, as if Meridian Heights might be visible through the wall. Those people took the envelope. It seems so. Is opened her purse. She had 9,850 naira. 7,300 had been meant for transport and food until Friday. The rest was for her mother's medicine balance. She counted out the notes. "Register him." Samuel touched her wrist. "My daughter, do not do that. You need a doctor. I can call my son once my phone charges. Your son will meet you alive. That one is more important." The receptionist took the money. Samuel said nothing. The doctor examined his hip, cleaned the cut on his hand, and sent him for an X-ray. There was no fracture. The repaired joint remained in place, but the muscles around it had been strained. His blood pressure had risen sharply from shock and pain. "You are fortunate. Another angle, and you could have dislocated the hip." Samuel looked at Is. "Fortunate," he repeated. The doctor prescribed pain medicine and 2 days of limited movement. At 10:27 a.m., they sat in the narrow waiting area beneath a wall fan that clicked every third turn. Is's phone vibrated. The message came from Primeline Support Services. "Report to our Lekki office by 2 p.m. Rereging a serious incident, clientellation." Her palms went cold. Samuel saw the screen. "This is because of me." "No, sir. It is because of what they did. You should go." "I will first make sure you reach your people." Samuel plugged his phone into a charging point beside the receptionist's desk. After 9 minutes, the screen came alive. 23 missed calls appeared. Most were from his driver in Ibadan. 2 were from an unfamiliar office number. 1 was from Dare. Samuel stared at his son's name, but did not press call immediately. Is noticed. "That is your son." "Yes. He works in the building?" Samuel looked at her. "He does." "Then call him. Maybe he can collect your envelope." Samuel almost smiled. He can do more than that. But before he called Dare, he asked Is for a sheet of paper. She tore one from the back of her notebook. Samuel wrote her full name, her phone number, and the exact time of the incident. 8:41 a.m. "Why are you writing all this?" Is asked. "Because memory is weak when powerful people begin to speak." That sentence entered her chest and stayed there. Samuel called his driver instead. The man was still in Lagos and promised to come from Yaba. Then Samuel looked at Is. "You have spent money on me. I will return it today." "Sir, leave that one." "I will not leave it." "Okay. When your wallet comes back." He nodded. And your job? I will go and hear what they have to say. Do not sign anything you have not read. Ease raised one eyebrow. Now you sound like a lawyer. No. I sound like an old man who has seen people use paper to turn lies into official truth. At 11:03 a.m., Samuel's driver arrived. Before entering the car, Samuel held Ease's hand with both of his. You stood for me when everybody else stood and watched. Ease shook her head. Anybody should have done it. But only you did. He studied her face. Whatever happens today, do not allow them to make you ashamed of that. Then he left. Ease stood outside the clinic until the car disappeared into traffic. Only then did she count the money in her purse. 2,550 naira. She still had to reach Lekki, return home to Ajah and buy food. She exhaled slowly. God will provide, she whispered, but the fear in her stomach did not move. At 1:46 p.m., Ease entered Primaline's office in a low cream-colored building beside a tire shop. The waiting area had 6 plastic chairs and a poster that said, "Our people are our strength." Nobody offered her water. At 2:17, a compliance officer called her inside. The man had already printed Halima's complaint. He did not ask Ease what happened before he began reading accusations. Disobedience to client management, aggressive conduct, facilitation of unauthorized access, public disruption during a high-value investor visit. Ease sat upright. Sir. An elderly man was pulled from an elevator and nearly fell. That is not what the client reported. I was there. So were their security officers. They obeyed the person who caused it. The officer frowned. You must be careful with allegations. I am describing what happened. He turned the paper around. Sign here to acknowledge immediate suspension pending investigation. Ease read every line. The form stated that she admitted leaving her assigned duties and escorting an unregistered stranger into a restricted zone. She pushed it back. I did not escort him into any restricted zone. He was already inside the elevator when security dragged him out. This is an acknowledgement, not a confession. It contains a confession. The officer leaned back. You people come from these contract jobs and start behaving like lawyers. Madam, do you want us to help you or not? I want you to write what happened. We cannot rewrite a client report. Then attach my own statement. His expression changed. He was not expecting that. You have a statement? I will submit it before close of business. The man tapped his pen against the desk. Fine. But until the client clears you, do not return to Meridian Heights. Ease signed only the line confirming receipt of the suspension notice. Beside her signature, she wrote, I dispuss the facts stated above. The officer squeezed his face. You are making this matter difficult for yourself. No, sir. The matter was difficult when an old man nearly hit his head on marble. Outside the office, Ease sat beneath a roadside umbrella and opened her notebook. She began to write. She wrote the time Samuel entered the lobby. She wrote the exact words Halima used. She wrote how Yusuf pulled him by the arm. She wrote the name of the clinic and the amount she paid. She listed the receptionist, the man in the grey suit, and the cleaner who had been sent away. She described the missing envelope. Then she added something else. 3 duplicate maintenance receipt numbers, the broken first aid room lock, the absent contract nurse, the order restricting people from the central elevators based on appearance. By 5:08 p.m., her statement was 6 pages long. Ease emailed it to Primeline, the Meridian Human Resources address, and the company's ethics mailbox. Then she sent copies to her personal email and stored one in cloud storage. She had learned something from years of handling records. A document that existed in only one place could be made not to exist. At Meridian Heights, Halima sat behind a wide desk on the 19th floor with Samuel's brown envelope in front of her. Yusuf stood near the door. "Open it," she said. "Ma? You heard me. It says personal." Halima removed one crimson shoe beneath the desk and rubbed her ankle. "And the man called himself Samuel Ibe." "Yes, Ma. Ibe is not a rare surname. No, Ma." "But if he knows Ogadir?" Yusuf said nothing. Halima looked at him. If he truly knew the CEO, would he arrive in a faded taxi? Would his name be missing from the list? Use your head. Yusuf picked up the envelope. The flap had not been sealed. Inside were engineering notes, Samuel's wallet, and a printed access design proposal. The first page carried the letterhead of IB Meridian Holdings. Advisory Review, Accessibility Retrofit, Meridian Heats. Below it was a handwritten note. "Dad, please mark anything we have missed. I want your honest eyes on this before the board meeting. Dare." Yusuf stopped breathing for 1 second. "Ma." Halima snatched the paper. She read the note twice. Her face lost color beneath her makeup. "Dad?" Yusuf whispered. Halima stood so quickly that her chair rolled backwards. "No." She turned the pages. There were photographs of Samuel and Dare at an engineering award ceremony 9 years earlier. A copy of Samuel's identification. A visitor parking note. Yusuf lowered himself into the nearest chair. "Jesus, stand up!" Halima snapped. He stood. "We dragged the CEO's father from the elevator. We did not drag anybody." Yusuf stared at her. "Ma," I held his arm. "You assisted an unregistered visitor who resisted security procedure. He nearly fell because the contract girl interfered. That is not what happened." Halima stepped close. "Listen to me. One foolish sentence can end your career. You have 3 children in school, yes?" Yusuf's mouth went dry. "Yes, Ma. And your wife is still looking for work?" "Yes. So you will remember correctly." She returned to the desk and placed both hands on the papers. The old man attempted to enter without clearance. You asked him to step out. Ease became aggressive and pulled him, causing him to lose balance. Yusuf shook his head slowly. "Camera caught everything." Halima's eyes moved toward him. "Who controls the lobby footage?" Yusuf understood. "No, Ma. Who controls it?" "I do. How long before the system backs up externally?" 24 hours. Then you have time." Yusuf took 1 step back. "Ma, this is the chairman's father. Dare is CEO, not chairman. Still." Halima lowered her voice. "That makes it more important. If this reaches him as it happened, you and I are finished. But if it reaches him as a security breach caused by a reckless contract worker, he will protect the company." Yusuf looked at the note again. "Dad, 4 letters. Enough to destroy them. What about the envelope? We found it after the incident and sent it upstairs. But it has been here for hours." "Then change the log." Yusuf stared at her. Halima's expression became almost gentle. "I promoted you when nobody else would. I defended you after the Ikoyi theft complaint. Have you forgotten?" "No, Ma. I am asking for loyalty." Yusuf thought of his salary, his school fees, the small house he was building in Moe, the times Halima had called him her trusted person. His conscience spoke quietly. Fear spoke louder. "What should I do?" he asked. Halima smiled. "Now you are thinking." At 6:14 p.m., Isa's statement entered Meridian's ethics mailbox. At 6:21, an automated rule forwarded it to Halima, because complaints concerning corporate services fell under her division for initial response. By 6:28, Halima had read all 6 pages. The duplicate invoice numbers made her sit up. She called Yusuf again. "Come back." He had reached the car park. "Ma, I am going home." "Not anymore." When Yusuf returned, Halima pushed Isa's statement across the desk. "She knows about the maintenance records." Yusuf scanned the page. Maybe she only noticed errors. Errors? Halima's laugh was sharp. Those invoices belonged to Apex Vertical Systems. Yusuf knew the name. Apex had received the building's maintenance contract. 18 months earlier. The company belonged on paper to a man called Peter Johnson. What few people knew was that Peter was Halima's mother's cousin. The invoices were inflated. Some inspections had never happened. Replacement parts were billed twice. In 1 quarter alone, 7 million naira had moved through work orders Halima personally approved. The missing money was dangerous. The ignored safety faults were worse. She must not come back to the records room, Halima said. She is already suspended. Suspension can be reversed. I want something that will make Primeline dismiss her. Yusuf looked up. What kind of something? Halima opened a locked drawer and removed a silver management access card. Card 21MG04. It belonged to a facilities manager who had traveled to Abuja the previous week. Yusuf recognized it. No. Halima placed it on top of Easy's statement. She will come tomorrow to collect her belongings. Ma, planting a card is theft. Do not preach to me. She is already stealing documents. She copied invoice numbers. Exactly. Confidential data. Yusuf looked toward the window. Far below, headlights moved along the road like slow streams of fire. Why not just settle her? Halima's eyes hardened. Because people like Ease do not stay settled. Give them one small chance to feel righteous, and they start carrying themselves like judges. She embarrassed me in front of staff. Now she wants to inspect my contracts. She pushed the card closer. I need her credibility dead. The words hung between them. Yusuf did not touch the card. But he did not walk away. That was enough. The following morning, Ease returned to Meridian Heights at 9:12 to collect her handbag charger, cardigan, and personal notebook from the 17th floor records room. Primeline had instructed her to surrender all client property under supervision. Yusuf met her at the security desk. He did not look into her eyes. Your temporary pass. Ease accepted it. Where is the envelope belonging to the old man? What envelope? The one Madame Halima picked from the floor. I did not see any envelope. Ease studied him. You searched my bag yesterday. I was following instructions. You almost watched an old man break his hip while following instructions. Yusuf's jaw moved. Go and collect your things. A junior guard accompanied her upstairs. Ease found her drawer half open. Her cardigan lay folded on top. Her phone charger was beside it. The notebook containing the copied invoice numbers was missing. She searched the drawer twice. My notebook was here. The guard shrugged. I do not know. Ease checked beneath the files and behind the cabinet. Nothing. She placed her belongings inside her brown bag. As she stepped back into the lobby, Yusuf raised one hand. Wait. Halima stood near reception with 2 HR officers. Her magenta suit had been replaced by a white jacket and emerald trousers, but the same cold satisfaction sat on her face. We received information that company property may be leaving the building, Halima said. Ease's heartbeat slowed instead of quickening. Sometimes danger became so clear that fear had no work left to do. You searched me yesterday, she said. And we will search you today. On what basis? Security instruction. The HR officer avoided her gaze. Yusuf opened Easy's bag. He removed the cardigan, the charger, the purse. Then his fingers entered the small side pocket. He pulled out the silver access card. A gasp moved through the lobby. Ease stared at it. For 1 second, she did not understand what she was seeing. Then she looked at Yusuf. You put that there. His face closed. I found it in your bag. I have never seen that card in my life. Halima folded her arms. Of course. Ease turned to the HR officer. Check who used it. Check the camera. Check my entry and exit. Halima lifted the card between 2 fingers. This grants access to executive floors, document vaults, and control rooms. Yesterday you tried to take an unregistered man upstairs. Today we find this in your bag. That card was planted. Poor people are becoming too bold these days, Halima said loudly. You enter a glass tower, feel air conditioning on your skin, and begin to imagine the building belongs to you. Ease's face burned. Dozens of eyes were on her again. You are lying, she said. Halima's chin lifted. Be careful. You took the old man's envelope. My notebook is missing. Now a card appears in my bag. You are lying. Yusuf looked at the floor. Halima turned to the HR officer. You heard her. Add defamation and insubordination to the report. Ease took out her phone. I want the police called. That surprised everyone. Halima blinked. What? Call the police. If I stole an access card, let them investigate. Let them check fingerprints, usage logs, and camera footage. Yusuf's head snapped up. Halima recovered quickly. This is an internal matter. No, you are accusing me of theft. Call them. The HR officer cleared his throat. Perhaps we should first review. Halima cut him off. Primalian will handle its employee. We do not need police drama in the lobby. Ease understood. They wanted the accusation, not the investigation. By 11:05 a.m., Primeline terminated her contract for gross misconduct. By 1:30 p.m., a letter had been drafted stating that she had been found with unauthorized access property. By 4 p.m., the same letter had been emailed to a logistics firm where Ease was scheduled to interview that Friday. By sunset, one planted card had begun to close doors across Lagos. And Halima believed the truth had finally been buried. Samuel returned to Meridian Heights the next morning, wearing the same burnt orange kaftan. This time, his phone was fully charged. He came with his driver, but he refused to use the executive entrance. He walked through the same revolving door. He wanted to see whether the building had changed, because an old man had nearly fallen. It had not. The cleaner still used the back corridor. A dispatch rider still waited outside in the heat. Yusuf still stood behind the security desk, though his eyes were red from a night without sleep. When he saw Samuel, the color drained from his face. "Good morning," Samuel said. Yusuf swallowed. "Good morning, sir. I came for my envelope." Yusuf looked toward the elevators. "Which envelope, sir?" Samuel's voice remained calm. "The brown one your director collected from the floor. It contained my wallet, my identification copies and documents, addressed to Dare Ibe. I am not aware of it." Samuel leaned on his stick. "You were standing beside her when she picked it up." Yusuf's forehead shone. "I did not see what she collected." Samuel nodded slowly. "Then tell me where East Nwosu is." Yusuf's face tightened. "She no longer works here." "Why?" "She was caught stealing a management access card." Samuel's hand closed around his stick. "That young woman paid for my treatment with money she could not afford. She refused to take 1 naira from me. And you expect me to believe she stole an access card the next morning?" Yusuf looked away. "I only know what was found." Samuel studied him for several seconds. What was found and what was placed are not always the same thing. Yusuf's breathing changed. Samuel saw it. "Call Halima. She is in a meeting. Call her." "Sir, you cannot give instructions here." Samuel brought out his phone. "No problem." He dialed Dare's number. At that moment, Dare Ibe was on the 21st floor, seated across from 3 bankers and 2 members of the company's investment committee. At 43, Dare had the kind of calm that made people lower their voices without being asked. He wore a dark navy suit and a gold tie. He did not shout at employees. He did not insult drivers. He approved charitable projects and spoke often about responsible leadership. He also spent most of his working life above the 20th floor. That distance had consequences. His phone vibrated once on the table. "Dad." Dare glanced at the clock. 9:36. He had expected Samuel the previous morning, but his assistant had said the old man never arrived. Samuel later sent only a brief message, saying he had been delayed and would explain. Dare silenced the phone. The banker across from him was discussing a 3 billion dirham financing package. The phone rang again. Dare apologized and answered, "Dad, I am in a meeting. Are you all right?" Samuel looked directly at Yusuf. "I am standing in your lobby." Dare sat straighter. "You came today. I came yesterday too. What do you mean?" "I mean I was pulled out of your elevator, searched like a thief and sent to a clinic after a contract worker stopped me from falling." The boardroom vanished from Dare's attention. "What?" "And today the woman who helped me has been dismissed for theft." Dare rose. The people around the table stopped speaking. "Dad, stay there." "No." "What do you mean, no?" "I have stayed there enough. Ask yourself a question first." Dare walked toward the door. "What question? How does your company treat people when it does not know they are connected to you?" Samuel ended the call. Dare stood in the boardroom doorway with the phone against his ear. Nobody moved. His chief financial officer finally asked, "Hope no problem?" Dare turned back. "End the meeting." He crossed the executive corridor quickly. But before entering the private elevator, his father's question caught him. "How does your company treat people when it does not know they are connected to you?" Dare stopped. If he descended with assistance and security, every manager would change shape before he arrived. Smiles would appear, files would be cleaned. People would perform respect because the CEO was watching. He called Tola Daniels, the head of people and ethics. "Tola, come to my office now, quietly." Then he called his assistant. "Preserve all lobby footage, access logs, visitor records, and emails from Monday morning. No deletion, no overwrite. Do not copy corporate services." His assistant hesitated. "Sir, corporate services controls the cameras." Dare's eyes hardened. "Then, call our external IT security vendor. I want a preservation hold placed on the server within 15 minutes. "Yes, sir." Dare called his father again. Samuel answered from the car. "Where are you going?" Dare asked. "Back to my hotel. I was coming down. That is exactly why I left." "Dad, I need to see your injury." "You will see it." "What happened?" Samuel looked through the car window at the Lagos traffic. "I will send you the clinic report and the name of the woman who helped me. But do not turn this into a son defending his father. Someone put hands on you." "Yes." Dare's voice tightened. "And you want me to be calm? I want you to be useful." "Silence," Samuel continued. "If you march into that lobby and dismiss everybody in anger, what will they learn? They will learn not to insult your father. Tomorrow they will insult another old man whose son cannot sack them." Dare closed his eyes. "What do you want me to do?" "Find out what happened without using my name as evidence." "Dad, find out why a contract worker could lose her livelihood before anybody heard her side. Find out why a manager believed appearance was a security policy. Find out whether your building is safe when your executives are not inside the lift." Samuel's voice softened. "And find S. Nwosu." The call ended. 10 minutes later, Dare received the clinic report, a photograph of Samuel's bruised wrist, and 6 pages written by Ease. He read the statement twice. On the 3rd page, she mentioned duplicate maintenance invoices. Dare called Tola again. "Bring internal audit into this. 1 person only. No email chain." Tola was 47, composed and difficult to intimidate when she chose not to be. But she had spent years inside corporate systems, and systems trained even intelligent people to trust titles more than testimony. She entered Dare's office holding a tablet. "I have reviewed the initial report," she said. "Corporate Services says a contract employee became aggressive while helping an unregistered visitor bypass access controls." Dare placed his father's photograph on the table. "That visitor is Samuel Ibe." Tola stared. Your father? Yes. Her hand tightened around the tablet. Sir, I did not know. That sentence is already becoming the problem. Tola looked at him. Dare tapped the photograph. If he were not my father, would we investigate? Tola did not answer quickly. That depends on whether the complaint reached us with enough evidence. He submitted a complaint. Ease submitted 6 pages. Tola opened the ethics system. The complaint was marked Closed, insufficient basis. Closed by Halima George at 7:03 the previous evening. Tola's face changed. She should not have closed a complaint involving her own department, but the system allowed it. Yes, then investigate the system too. Tola nodded. Dare leaned back. You are not to tell anyone that Samuel is my father. Not Halima. Not Yusuf. Not Primaline. Why? Because I want to know whether the evidence can stand without my surname pressing on it. Tola looked again at the bruised wrist, and if they are still deleting records, then we move faster. The first sign of tampering appeared at 11:42 a.m. The lobby camera archive contained an 83-second gap between 8:40:31 and 8:41:54 on Monday. The footage before the gap showed Samuel entering the elevator. The footage after showed Ease standing in front of security, speaking with raised hands. The fall was gone. The grabbing was gone. Halima's order was gone. Tola requested the original visitor log. It showed Samuel arriving at 9:06 a.m. But the building's automatic entrance sensor recorded a person using Samuel's temporary QR slip at 8:38. The times could not both be true. Next, Tola checked the silver card found in Easy's bag. Card 21 MG04 had been used at 10:14 a.m. on the 21st floor, while Ease was under supervision on the 17th floor. At 10:14, Dare's assistant had used it to access a document room because her own badge failed. The assistant remembered borrowing it from Halima's office 2 weeks earlier. How did that card enter Easy's bag? Tola asked the security analyst. The man swallowed. I cannot say, Ma. Then say who last signed it out. He checked. There was no sign-out record. Tola opened Halima's written incident report. The report said, Yusuf recovered the card at 9:47 a.m. But the system showed the same card opening an executive door 27 minutes later. Either the card had moved from Easy's bag to the 21st floor without being logged, or the report was false. There was no third option. By 3 p.m., Tola had enough to suspend the allegation, but not enough to prove who planted the card. She called Ease. Ease was sitting outside a pharmacy in Aja, staring at the cost of her mother's medicine. She had 2,100 naira left. Her mother needed 8,400 to complete the prescription. The pharmacy attendant had already moved to the next customer. Easy's phone rang. Mims Nwasu? Yes. My name is Tola Daniels. I head People and Ethics at iMeridian Holdings. Ass almost laughed. People and Ethics? Yes. The same company that searched me twice and called me a thief? I understand why you are angry. No, Ma. You understand the words. You do not understand what those words have done. Tola paused. I would like to meet you and take a formal statement. I already sent 6 pages. I have read them. Then you know what happened. I know what you reported. I need supporting evidence. Ease stood and moved away from the pharmacy door. Madam, when your director said I stole a card, nobody asked for supporting evidence before terminating me. Tola took the blow without defending herself. That was wrong. Ease went quiet. It was the first time anyone from the company had said it. Tola continued. We have found inconsistencies in the access logs. What kind? I cannot disclose everything by phone. Then tell me this. Are you calling to clear my name, or are you calling to make me sign something? To investigate. That is not an answer. Tola looked through the glass wall of her office. Two permanent employees laughed near the coffee machine. A contract cleaner passed behind them, carrying a full waste bag. I am calling because I believe the allegation against you may have been manufactured. Ease closed her eyes. The noise of Ajar traffic swelled around her. For 2 days she had wanted somebody with authority to say those words. Now they did not bring relief. They brought anger. May have been? We still need evidence. Fine. Meet me outside the company. Where? A public place. They agreed on a quiet restaurant in Lekki Phase 1 at noon the next day. That evening, Dare visited Samuel's hotel. He found his father sitting near the window with an ice pack on his hip and the printed accessibility report open on the table. Even injured, Samuel was writing comments in the margin. Dare stood in the doorway for a moment. The bruise on Samuel's wrist was darker than it had appeared in the photograph. Dare's jaw tightened. Who touched you? Samuel did not look up. Good evening to you too. Dad, sit down. Dare sat. Samuel closed the report. What have you found? The lobby footage was edited. The visitor log was changed. The access card accusation does not fit the usage data. Samuel nodded as if hearing a machine diagnosis. And Ease? Tola will meet her tomorrow. Good. Dare leaned forward. Why did you not call me immediately? Samuel looked at his son. Because I wanted to know whether anybody would help me before my name became useful. That sounds like a test. It was not planned. I did not dress badly. I did not pretend to be poor. I came as myself. I know. Do you? Samuel asked. Because your staff decided that myself was not enough. Dare looked away. Samuel's voice softened. When your mother was alive, she used to say a house can be clean and still smell bad if there is no kindness inside it. Your lobby is very clean, Dare. The sentence hurt more than anger. Dare rubbed both hands together. I speak to staff about respect. From a stage? Yes. Do contract workers speak back? Dare said nothing. Do they have a channel that does not return their complaint to the person they reported? Dare thought of Halima closing Easy's complaint. No. Then you have built a microphone for yourself and called it communication. The room became quiet. Samuel continued. Your problem is not only one arrogant woman. Your problem is that everybody saw what happened and believed silence was the safest professional skill. Dare looked at the accessibility report. I invited you to review ramps and elevator controls. Yes, and instead you found this. Samuel's eyes held his. Accessibility is not only whether a wheelchair can enter a building. It is whether a human being can enter without surrendering his dignity. The next day, Ease met Tola at noon. Ease wore the same turquoise blouse she had worn during the incident. She had washed it overnight. A faint scrape from the broken lanyard still marked her neck. Tola noticed. Ease noticed her noticing. They sat across from each other. Tola placed a recorder on the table. With your permission. Ease nodded. For 1 hour and 23 minutes, she described everything again. She did not exaggerate. She did not invent dialogue. When she was uncertain of a time, she said so. When she had not personally seen something, she identified it as an assumption. That precision impressed Tola more than tears would have. Then, Ease opened her phone and showed photographs she had taken weeks earlier of maintenance invoices before filing them. 3 receipt numbers appeared twice. A technician's signature dated a Sunday, when building access records showed no technicians entered. 1 invoice billed for replacing the door sensor on elevator 3. Ease had ridden elevator 3 the following morning. The same fault code still flashed on the maintenance panel. Why did you photograph these? Tola asked. Because I reported the duplicates verbally, and my supervisor told me to mind my salary. Did you send them to anyone? No. I kept them in case something happened. Something has happened. Yes. Tola looked through the images. Are you seeking compensation? E's face became still. I am seeking my name. Tola looked up. They sent a theft letter to a company where I was meant to interview. My contract agency ended my employment without hearing me. People in that lobby saw a card pulled from my bag. Even if you pay me, those people will still think I am a thief. What outcome do you want? Ease counted on her fingers. The allegation must be withdrawn in writing. The correction must go everywhere the accusation went. The workers who witnessed the incident must be protected. The complaint channel must not return complaints to the person being accused. And the old man must receive an apology whether he is important or not. Tola watched her. You are not asking for your job back. I do not know if I want to enter that building again. Tola turned off the recorder. There may be financial misconduct linked to the maintenance contracts. Easy's eyes sharpened. I suspected. Do not discuss that with anyone. I have not. Halima may contact you. She already tried to destroy my work record. What else does she want? To know what you know. Tola gathered the documents. Ease placed one hand over the photographs. You can view them. I will not surrender the only copies. Tola gave the smallest smile. Good. After the meeting, Ease received a call from an unknown number. A woman spoke in a whisper. Please, are you Ease? Yes. I work at Meridian Reception. Ease recognized the voice. It was the young receptionist who had offered to call Dare's office. You were there that morning? Yes. What is your name? The woman inhaled sharply. Please, do not ask me. Madam Halima said anybody who supports you will follow you out. Ease moved to a quieter corner. Why are you calling? Because the visitor email came at 7:52. It was sent to an old address, but I found it later. The old man truly had an appointment. Can you send it to HR? If they trace me, I will lose my job. Then do not send it from your work account. I have a baby and my husband is not working. Please, do not mention me. Ease could have recorded the call and handed it over openly. The receptionist's testimony would destroy Halima's claim that Samuel invented the appointment. But the woman's fear was real. Ease remembered standing alone in the lobby while everybody watched. She would not create another sacrifice and call it evidence. Listen, she said. I will give you the number of the ethics investigator. Tell her you want confidential witness protection. Do not send anything until she confirms how your identity will be protected. The receptionist began to cry. Thank you. No. Be careful. And keep your own copy of the email somewhere outside the office. Ease called Tola immediately. I have a witness, but I will not give you her name unless you create a protected channel first. Tola paused. We have a confidential process. Your confidential process sent my complaint to Halima. That ended the argument. Tola arranged for an external employment lawyer to receive the witness statement. The receptionist's identity would remain sealed unless legally required. It slowed the investigation. Ease accepted that. Truth obtained by crushing another frightened worker would not be justice. That evening, Halima called Ease. Her tone was unexpectedly warm. My dear, how are you? Ease nearly ended the call. What do you want? Let us not behave like enemies. These workplace misunderstandings happen. You called me a thief in front of the whole lobby. I acted on information available at the time. You created the information. Halima went quiet. Then she laughed softly. You have become very brave because somebody from ethics bought you lunch. We paid separately. Halima's warmth disappeared. Listen to me. I can arrange a settlement. 6 months of your salary. A neutral reference. You sign a confidentiality agreement, withdraw your complaint, and delete any company documents in your possession. Ease looked around her room. Her mother slept behind a curtain, one hand resting on a folded wrapper. On the table Lay the unpaid electricity bill. The landlord's message glowed on Easy's phone. 6 months of salary could solve many immediate problems. That was why the offer was dangerous. What will happen to the false theft report? Ease asked. It will be quietly removed. Quietly? Yes. You accused me publicly. Halima's voice sharpened. Do not overvalue yourself. Nobody in that building is discussing you. They do not need to discuss me. The letter has already traveled. Take the money, no. Halima was silent. Think well, Ease. Principals do not pay rent. Ease looked at the medicine beside her mother's bed. No. But lies can make a person homeless forever. You think you can fight Meridian Holdings? I am not fighting the company. I am asking the company to decide what it is. Halima ended the call. Then she called Yusuf. They are investigating. I know. How? IT placed a preservation hold on the server. Halima gripped the phone. Who authorized it? CEO's office. For the first time, real fear entered her voice. Did the old man speak to Dare? I do not know. You said he left. He came back yesterday. Halima stood. And you are telling me now? He asked for the envelope and Iez. What did you say? That I did not know about the envelope. Halima paced her office. Good. Ma, this thing is getting worse. Then stop shaking. The card log does not match. What? The card was used after we found it. Halima stopped moving. How? Your assistant used it upstairs. There are logs. Halima pressed her fingers to her forehead. Can the logs be changed? No external vendor has mirrored them. What about the camera? I removed the main section. Main section? I cut 83 seconds. Where is the original? Yusuf said nothing. Halima's eyes narrowed, though he could not see her. Yusuf. The system made a local recovery copy before overwrite. Delete it. I tried. The file is protected by a service account. Then replace the storage unit. That will look worse. Halima lowered her voice. Tomorrow, Apex is coming to service the elevator controller. Make sure they replace any unit holding local camera cache. The camera cache is not in the elevator controller. Then find where it is. Ma, do it. Yusuf ended the call and sat alone in the security office. He opened a drawer beneath the monitor. Inside was a small black flash drive. On Monday night, before editing the camera footage, he had copied the original file. Not because he planned to tell the truth, because he did not trust Halima. Now that copy felt heavier than metal. He imagined handing it to Tola. Then he imagined his children sent home from school because fees were unpaid. He closed the drawer. Cowardice rarely announces itself as evil. Sometimes it sounds like responsibility. Over the next 4 days, the story moved quietly beneath the polished surface of Meridian Heights. Executives still entered through the front doors. Coffee still arrived in porcelain cups. Elevators still chimed. But behind closed screens and locked offices, the building had begun to speak. Internal audit compared Apex Vertical Systems invoices with actual access records. 5 service visits had been billed on days no technician entered the property. 2 safety certificates carried the signature of an engineer who had been in Kano when the documents were supposedly signed in Lagos. A door sensor listed as replaced for 1.86 million naira still carried its original serial number. Worse, an inspection report from 8 weeks earlier warned that Elevator 3's closing sensor responded slowly under certain load conditions. The report had been marked resolved. It was not resolved. The sensor had contributed to the door closing against Samuel's foot when Yusuf pulled him out. One act of humiliation had almost combined with one act of financial dishonesty to cause a serious injury. The 2 wrongs were connected. Halima had not merely insulted an old man. She had protected the kind of neglected system that could kill one. Tola brought the findings to Dare at 7:25 on Friday evening. He read the file in silence. How much? He asked. Preliminary figure is 11. 7 million naira in questionable invoices. It may increase. Who approved them? Halima approved 14 work orders. Facilities countersigned. But 2 officers say she pressured them. And Apex? Registered it to Peter Johnson. Dare knew the name. Connection? Halima's maternal relative, not disclosed in procurement records. Dare placed the report on the table. Why did nobody flag this? Somebody did. Tola opened Ease's 6-page statement. She did. Dare looked toward the dark windows. Lagos glittered below, busy and indifferent. The lowest paid person in the chain saw what our controls missed. She handled the raw records every day. And when she spoke, her supervisor told her to mind her salary. Dare pressed his thumb against the edge of the table. Where is that supervisor? On leave pending interview. What about Primeline? They terminated Ease within 3 hours of receiving Halima's complaint. No disciplinary hearing. No evidence review. Can they do that under the contract? They should not. But our outsourcing terms allow the client to request removal from site without giving reasons. Primeline treated removal as proof of misconduct. Dare looked at her. Who approved those terms? Tola did not answer. She did not need to. Dare had signed thy final vendor framework 2 years earlier. He had read the commercial clauses. He had not studied what the contract allowed the company to do to a person with no bargaining power. Samuel's words returned. Your problem is not only one arrogant woman. Dare leaned back. Prepare a full correction letter for Ease. Freeze the Apex contract. Notify external auditors. And suspend Halima. Tola hesitated. Sir, we have the annual responsibility program on Wednesday. Halima is scheduled to speak. About what? Tola's mouth tightened. Dignity in every space. Dare gave a humorless laugh. The irony was almost offensive. Has she been told she is under investigation? No. She knows records are being reviewed, but not the full scope. Do we have enough to prove the elevator incident? We have circumstantial evidence. The protected witness confirmed the appointment email and Halima's instruction. But the witness did not see the exact moment Yusuf pulled Samuel because another visitor blocked her view. The missing video? Still missing. Then if we suspend Halima now, she will say we acted because the old man is my father. Tola nodded. And she may destroy the remaining evidence. She is already trying. We are monitoring access. Dare walked to the window. Let the program continue. Tola stared. You want Halima to speak. I want everyone to hear what we claim to believe before they see what we have tolerated. That could become very public. It should. Tola studied him. You understand the reputational risk? Dare turned. Our reputation is not what we say about ourselves. It is what happened in that lobby. For the first time since the investigation began, Tola saw the CEO stop protecting the company's appearance and start protecting its integrity. There was a difference. Meanwhile, Ease's life was shrinking by the day. The landlord sent a message at 6:03 on Saturday morning. Balance must be paid by Monday. I am not running charity. Her mother noticed Ease reading it. Is it work? Ease locked the screen. No, Mama. Her mother adjusted the wrapper around her shoulders. Do not lie to an old woman. Your face has been carrying load since Monday. Ease sat beside her on the bed. They ended my contract. Her mother's eyes widened. Why? They accused me of stealing. What did you steal? Nothing. Her mother stared at her, then reached for Ease's hand. Tell me from beginning. Ease told her, not every detail. Enough. When she finished, her mother was quiet for a long time. You used your transport money to treat the man? Yes. And now you do not have work? Yes. Her mother looked toward the small window where morning light entered through a torn curtain. Ease waited for blame. Instead, the older woman nodded. Your father would have done the same. Ease's throat tightened. Her father had died 6 years earlier, after clasapting at a public hospital. He had arrived in stained mechanic overalls. For 2 hours. Attendants assumed he was a driver waiting for someone else. By the time Ease reached the hospital and insisted on an examination, his stroke had progressed too far. That memory had lived inside her like a closed room. Her mother squeezed her hand. We suffered because people looked at his cloth before they looked at his condition. If you saw the same thing and kept quiet, what would all that pain have taught you? Ease bowed her head. But rent, we will manage. Your medicine, we will manage carefully. Mama, managing carefully is still managing. Her mother smiled. Then we will manage with dignity. Ease laughed and cried at the same time. That afternoon, Samuel visited. He came without a convoy. His driver parked a modest black sedan outside the compound. Samuel wore a pale ivory caftan this time and carried a paper pharmacy bag. Ease opened the door and stared. Papa Samuel? His face warmed at the name. So you have promoted me to Papa. You found this place? You wrote your address on the clinic registration form. Engineers know how to follow records. Ease looked embarrassed by the room. A mattress stood against one wall during the day to create space. The electric fan moved slowly because the current was weak. A pot of stew sat covered on a single burner stove. Samuel noticed her discomfort. He stepped inside as if entering the home of an old friend. Good afternoon, Ma, he greeted Easy's mother. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Samuel. I have heard. Her mother pointed to a plastic chair. Sit before your leg starts complaining. Samuel laughed and obeyed. He placed the pharmacy bag on the table. These are the medicines Ease could not complete buying. Ease stiffened. How did you know? The prescription fell from your bag when they searched you. I saw the pharmacy name and called. You should not have, I should. He brought out an envelope containing 7,300 naira. This is the exact amount you paid at the clinic. Ease did not touch it. Papa Samuel. It is reimbursement, not reward. That difference is doing too much work. Samuel smiled. Then take the money and argue with the English language later. Ease's mother coughed to hide a laugh. Ease finally accepted the envelope. Samuel looked around. Has anyone from Meridian contacted you? The ethics woman. Tola? You know her? I know of her. Ease sat opposite him. They found inconsistencies. But they have not cleared me publicly. They will. You sound certain. Samuel rested both hands on his stick. I have worked with machines all my life. When several independent parts point to the same fault, certainty begins to grow. Ease watched him. What exactly did you do at Meridian before you retired? I never worked for Meridian, but you understand their systems. I understand elevators. That report in your envelope was for them. Yes, and your son works there. Yes, what does he do? Samuel's eyes held a small secret. He carries a heavy title. Ease frowned. Director? Something like that. Can he help clear my name? He can help create a fair process. That is not the same thing. No, it is better. Ease leaned back. I am tired of process, Papa Samuel. Process searched my bag. Process ended my contract. Process sent a lie to another employer. Samuel nodded. Then the process must repair what it damaged. He told her about the original elevator safety concern. He explained how the closing sensor should have reacted when Samuel's foot remained inside the cabin. He explained that replacing a sensor was not just a matter of comfort. It was part of preventing crushing injuries and falls. Ease listened carefully. So the invoice says it was replaced? Yes, but it was not. Correct. And Halima approved the invoice. Samuel did not answer directly. The investigation will establish responsibility. Ease looked at him. You people like official language. You people? Engineers, directors, heavy title carriers. Samuel smiled. Then his expression became serious. There will be a company event on Wednesday. You may be invited. I will not go. You should. I have already been humiliated twice in that lobby. This time, you will not go to beg. What will I go to do? To speak truth where the lie was allowed to become official. Ease shook her head. I do not want my life turned into corporate theater. Neither do I. Then why should I stand on their stage? Samuel leaned forward. Because when an accusation is public and the correction is private, the lie continues to win. Ease looked down at the envelope in her hand. Samuel continued. You defended me when standing beside me could cost you everything. Now defend the truth when everybody can hear it. On Monday morning, Halima received notice that the annual program would proceed as scheduled. Relief washed through her. If Dare knew everything, surely he would have cancelled her speech. If she were about to be suspended, she would not still be appearing before the board, partner organizations, and staff. She interpreted silence as safety. It was a mistake. She prepared a 12-minute speech about inclusive spaces. She selected photographs of wheelchair ramps, donated walking aids, and smiling elderly residents from a community outreach. She instructed communication staff to place the phrase "dignity" is our culture across the main screen. Then she called Yusuf into her office. You see, she said, nothing has happened. Yusuf stood stiffly. Investigation is still going. Routine review. They will find some invoicing error, fine Apex, and move on. What about S? Halima's lips tightened. She refused settlement. You offered her money? I offered peace. No, Ma. You offered silence. Halima looked up sharply. Yusuf surprised himself. For days, fear had pushed him deeper into the lie, but fear was changing shape. He no longer feared only losing his job. He feared becoming the person his children would be ashamed to know. Halima rose. Mind how you speak to me. Yusuf's courage shrank but did not disappear. The original video still exists, then delete it. I cannot. Cannot or will not. Yusuf said nothing. Halima walked around the desk. Do you think they will protect you if this thing breaks? I gave the order, yes, but your hands touched the old man. Your login edited the footage. Your signature changed the visitor log. Yusuf stared at her. We did it together. Halima smiled coldly. Show me where my signature appears. The truth arrived in Yusuf's mind like a door opening. She had arranged every instruction verbally. She had used his access, his hands, his fear. If the matter collapsed, she would call him a rogue security officer. Yusuf thought of the flash drive in his drawer. Halima saw the change in his face. What are you thinking? Nothing, Ma. Good. Continue thinking nothing. After he left, Halima called Apex. Remove all legacy storage from the ground floor security system before Wednesday. The contractor replied that external IT had locked the equipment room. Then create a reason to enter, such as report an overheating risk. That attempt also failed. Tola had placed 2 independent observers on the equipment room. Every access request required dual approval. Halima began to understand that the net around her was not routine. She called Dare's assistant and requested a private meeting. The assistant replied that the CEO's schedule was full. Halima sent an urgent message. No response. For the first time in years, her title could not open a door. On Tuesday afternoon, Tola visited Ease again. She brought a formal invitation to the program and a draft correction letter from Primeline. Ease read the letter. It said the theft allegation had been unsubstantiated. She placed it on the table. No, Tola frowned. What is wrong? Unsubstantiated means they could not prove it. The allegation was false. The card was planted. We cannot state who planted it, until the investigation is concluded. Then, write that system records prove the card was in executive use after they claimed it was found in my bag. That is accurate. And write that my termination did not follow fair procedure. Tola made a note. Anything else? Send it to the logistics company. We will, and to every manager copied on the accusation. Yes. Ease looked at the program invitation. Will Halima be there? She is scheduled to speak. Ease gave a short, unbelieving laugh. About dignity. Yes, God forbid. Tola almost smiled. Will you come? Ease thought of her mother, of Samuel, of the receptionist who had risked making a call, of the cleaner who had lowered her eyes, of every contract worker whose complaint could be returned to the person causing the harm. What exactly do you want me to do? Tell the truth, nothing more. And nothing less, nothing less. Ease accepted the invitation. Wednesday arrived bright and humid. At 9:40 a.m., more than 200 people filled the Meridian Conference Hall on the ground floor. Board members sat in the first row. Permanent staff occupied the central seats. Contract workers were placed near the rear until Tola ordered the ushers to remove the reserved signs and allow open seating. That small change caused whispers. Halima stood backstage in her magenta suit and crimson heels, reviewing her speech. She had added a gold brooch shaped like an open hand. Dare wore navy. Tola wore deep green. Ease arrived at 10:07 in her turquoise blouse and mustard skirt. She paused outside the glass doors. The lobby looked exactly as it had on Monday. The same elevators, the same marble, the same place where her badge had struck the floor. Her breathing shortened. Samuel was not there. She called him. No answer. For one moment, panic rose. Had he changed his mind? Had something happened to his hip? Tola approached. He will come. Ease looked at her. You know, Tola only said, please, take your seat. At 10:30, the program began. A promotional video showed smiling employees, accessible ramps, and elderly community members receiving food packages. Soft music played beneath words like respect, inclusion, and humanity. Ease watched the screen. The images were beautiful. That was not the same as being true. At 10:52, Halima walked to the podium. Applause filled the hall. She smiled warmly. At Meridian, she began, we believe dignity is not a privilege reserved for the powerful. It is a right shared by every person who enters our spaces. Easy's fingers tightened around the edge of her chair. Halima continued. We do not judge by age, clothing, physical ability, or social position. We see the human being first. A contract cleaner near the aisle looked down. Yusuf stood at the back wall in uniform. Sweat gathered beneath his collar. Inside his pocket was the black flash drive. Halima spoke for 11 minutes. She described compassion as a corporate value. She praised management for building a culture of listening. She told the audience that true leadership meant protecting those with less power. The lies were not shouted. They were applauded. When she finished, the master of ceremonies stepped toward the podium. Dare raised one hand. Please remain seated. The hall quieted. Dare walked onto the stage without notes. Halima smiled at him, expecting praise. He did not return the smile. Before we launch dignity in every space, Dare said, we must examine whether we have earned the right to use those words. A murmur moved through the room. Halima's shoulders stiffened. Dare looked at the audience. 9 days ago, an elderly visitor entered this building for a confirmed appointment. He was judged by his clothes, denied fair assistance, pulled from an elevator, and searched. A contract worker who protected him was publicly humiliated, accused of theft, and dismissed before anyone examined the evidence. Silence spread row by row. Halima stepped closer to Dare. Sir, I believe there has been some misunderstanding. Dare turned to her. You will have a full opportunity to speak. His calm frightened her more than anger. The main screen changed. It showed the edited lobby footage. Samuel entered the elevator. The image jumped. Then Ease appeared, standing in front of security with her hands raised. Halima exhaled. That version still protected her. She walked toward the center of the stage. Thank you, sir. This video shows precisely the difficulty we faced. An unregistered man attempted to enter a restricted executive lift. Security intervened. Miss Nwosu then became aggressive and obstructed procedure. Ease stood from the rear. Halima saw her and almost smiled. And the following day, Halima continued, a management access card was recovered from Miss Nwosu's bag. My decisions were made to protect this company. Dare looked toward Ease. Ms. Nwosu, please come forward. Every head turned. Ease walked down the central aisle. Her knees felt weak. She heard whispers. That is the contract girl. That is the thief. She climbed the 3 steps to the stage and stood beneath the words, dignity is our culture. Dare offered her the microphone. Ease did not take it immediately. She looked at Halima, then at the audience, then she accepted. My name is Ase Nwosu, she said. For 11 months, I worked in your records unit. I was not an executive. I did not have an office. I did not even have medical cover. But I handled documents your managers signed without reading. The hall became still. On Monday at 8:41 a.m., Mr. Yusuf Bello pulled an elderly man from elevator 2 on Madam Halima's instruction. The man's walking stick fell, his leg folded. I caught him before his head touched the floor. Halima shook her head. That is not what the video shows. The video does not show 83 seconds because somebody removed them. A murmur rose as continued. I was searched. Nothing was found. I took the man to a clinic and paid 7,300 naira because his wallet was inside an envelope Madam Halima collected from the floor. Halima stepped forward. This is defamatory. Dare raised one hand. Let her finish. Ease's voice strengthened. The next day, I returned under supervision to collect my belongings. My notebook was missing. A management card appeared in a side pocket of my bag. The report says that card was recovered at 9:47 a.m. But the same card opened a door on the 21st floor at 10:14, while I was on the 17th floor with a guard. The screen displayed the access log. Several board members leaned forward. Ease turned toward Halima. So either the card learned how to climb 21 floors by itself, or the report was false. A few people gasped. Halima's face tightened. Tola stepped onto the stage carrying a file. The access record has been independently verified, she said. The visitor log was also edited after the incident. Building sensors show the visitor entered at 8:38 a.m., not 9:06 as later recorded. His appointment email arrived at 7:52 a.m. through an outdated distribution address. The screen showed the email header. Halima looked toward Yusuf. He did not meet her eyes. 5 maintenance visits billed by Apex Vertical Systems did not occur. A door sensor listed as replaced remained in service. That sensor failed to respond properly during the elevator incident. Halima's voice rose. This is a procurement issue. It has nothing to do with Miss Nwosu's insubordination. It has everything to do with it, he said. I noted those duplicate invoice numbers before the incident. My complaint could expose them. That is why my credibility had to die. Halima laughed, but the sound broke in the middle. You are a temporary clerk imagining conspiracies because you lost a job. Ease looked at her steadily. No, Ma. I lost a job because you needed people to believe I was dishonest. The audience held its breath. Halima turned to Dare. Sir, this woman has been stealing confidential records. She is manipulating you with emotion. Dare's expression did not change. Where is the original camera footage? Halima looked at Yusuf. Security controls footage. There it was, the first blade of betrayal. Yusuf's face changed. Halima continued quickly. If anything was edited, Mr. Bello acted outside my instruction. I trusted him. Yusuf stared at her. You told me to remove it. The words came before he could stop them. The hall erupted in whispers. Halima turned on him. You liar. You told me to make the morning disappear. I said no such thing. Yusuf's right hand entered his pocket. Halima's eyes widened. He brought out the black flash drive. I copied the original before I edited it. Tolo approached him. Why? Yusuf looked at Halima. Because I knew one day she would say I acted alone. Halima stepped backward. This man is trying to save himself. Yes, Yusuf said, I am, but the video is still true. Tola took the drive and handed it to the IT investigator beside the stage. The man inserted it into an isolated laptop. For 17 seconds, nothing happened. Halima's breathing became visible. Then the screen went black. The original footage appeared. The hall watched Samuel step into the elevator. They watched Halima point. They watched Yusuf force the doors apart and drag the old man backwards. They watched Samuel's leg fold. They watched Ease throw down her files and catch him. Then Halima's voice filled the speakers. Search her bag. Search the old beggar too. No one whispered now. A pen slipped from a board member's fingers and struck the floor. Halima stood beneath the giant screen while her own face stared down at her. For once she had no speech ready. Yusuf looked as if the uniform on his body had become too heavy. Dare faced the audience. The footage has been authenticated. It was altered using Mr. Bello's login at 11:17 a.m. on the day of the incident. Halima found her voice. Sir, I admit the situation was not handled perfectly, but we believed the man was a security risk. We did not know who he was. The glass doors at the rear of the hall opened. Samuel entered. His burnt orange caftan glowed against the grey walls. His ivory filer sat neatly on his head. He moved slowly, one hand on the wooden stick, but there was nothing weak about the way he carried himself. Ease turned. Papa Samuel, she whispered. The audience followed her gaze. Dare stepped down from the stage. He walked the length of the aisle and stopped beside the old man. For the first time that morning, emotion broke through the CEO's controlled face. He touched Samuel's shoulder, then he turned to the hall. This is Samuel eBay, he said. He is my father. The reaction came like wind through dry leaves. Gasps, chairs shifting, hands covering mouths. Halima's face went empty. Yusuf closed his eyes. Ease stared at Samuel. She remembered the clinic waiting room, the dead phone, the 7300 naira, his quiet answer that his son worked in the building. Your son is the CEO? She asked. Samuel gave her a small, regretful smile. Yes, my daughter. Ease shook her head once, stunned. You said he carried a heavy title. He does. A few nervous laughs moved through the room, then died quickly. Halima took one step toward Samuel. Sir, I am so sorry. If I had known, Samuel raised his hand. No. The single word stopped her. He climbed the stage slowly. Dare reached to help him, but Samuel shook his head and used the handrail. When he reached the center, Ease gave him the microphone. Samuel looked at Halima. What would you have done differently if you had known? Halima's lips parted. I would have welcomed you properly, sir. And if my son were a driver? She said nothing. If he were a cleaner, Samuel continued. If he had no title, no office, and no power to punish you, would my hip deserve less protection? Halima's eyes dropped. Samuel turned to the audience. What happened to me was wrong before you knew my surname. It did not become wrong because my son is your CEO. The words settled over the room. He pointed gently toward the lobby beyond the glass doors. A building does not become modern because the floor shines. It does not become inclusive because a poster carries an old man's face. It becomes humane when the person at the door does not need wealth, connections, or expensive clothing before somebody sees his dignity. He looked at Halima again. You said you did not know who I was. Madam, that was the examination. You knew I was an elderly human being. That should have been enough. Halima's shoulders began to shake. Sir, please, I made a mistake. Samuel's expression remained grave. A mistake is entering the wrong number in a form. You made a choice. Then you altered records, accused the person who helped me, and tried to buy her silence. Halima looked toward Dare. Mr. Ebe, please. I have served this company for 8 years. I built corporate services from nothing. I made Meridian respectable. Dare returned to the stage. No, he said. You made it afraid of embarrassment. Respectability and dignity are not the same thing. He faced Yusuf. And you. Yusuf lowered his head. I am sorry, sir. You used your hands to enforce an unlawful order. You changed records. You planted a false story around an innocent worker. Yusuf's voice broke. Yes, sir. You later preserved the evidence. That matters. It does not erase what you did. I understand. Dare looked at Tola. Read the immediate findings. Tola opened the file. Effective today, Halima George is suspended from all duties pending disciplinary proceedings and external financial investigation. Access to company systems is revoked. The Apex Vertical Systems contract is frozen, and all questionable payments are under independent audit. Halima gripped the podium. Tola continued. Yusuf Bello is suspended for falsifying security records and participating in an unlawful search and false allegation. His cooperation and surrender of evidence will be recorded, but disciplinary consequences remain. Yusuf nodded slowly. The theft allegation against Esin Wosu is withdrawn in full. Access data proves the card could not have been in her possession at the time claimed. Primeline Support Services has been directed to correct her employment record, issue a formal written apology, and circulate that correction to every recipient of the false report. Applause began somewhere near the back. Ease turned. A contract cleaner was clapping. Then the young receptionist joined. More hands followed. Within seconds, the hall filled with applause. Ease's eyes stung. She did not smile immediately. The sound was not victory yet. A lie had traveled quickly. Repair would take longer. Dare waited until the hall quieted. Miss Nwosu, on behalf of IB Meridian Holdings, I apologize. We failed to hear you. We allowed your employment status to reduce the seriousness with which your testimony was treated. We allowed a manager accused of wrongdoing to control your complaint, and I signed outsourcing terms that made removal easier than fairness. Ease looked at him carefully. Most powerful men apologized by explaining why they were not truly responsible. Dare did not, he continued. You will receive all wages lost. Compensation for professional harm and written correction to every organization contacted. We would also like to offer you a permanent role in our Ethics and Employee Access Unit. Fresh applause rose. Ease lifted one hand. Please. The room quieted again. She turned to Dare. Will this company change because I helped your father, or because what happened was wrong? Dare did not answer quickly. Samuel watched him. Tola watched him. 200 employees waited. Finally, Dare nodded. Because it was wrong. Ease held his gaze. Then do not give me a job on this stage like a reward. Publish the position. Let me apply. Let people know I earned it. Dare's surprise became respect. Agreed. And the workers who witnessed this must not be punished for speaking. Agreed. And contract workers should be able to report managers without their complaint returning to those same managers. Agreed. Put the changes in writing. Dare turned toward Tola. within 7 days. Ease nodded. Only then did she allow herself to breathe. Halima stood at the side of the stage, no longer looking like the woman whose heels had once controlled the lobby. Her title had been removed from her in less time than she had taken to tear Easy's badge. But Ease did not point at her. She did not insult her clothes. She did not ask security to drag her outside. "Madam Halima," Ease said, "I do not want your humiliation. I want the truth repaired." Halima looked up. "You destroyed my career," she whispered. Ease shook her head. "No. You trusted that people beneath you would remain silent. That choice destroyed it." 3 months later, the final audit confirmed 4 million naira in inflated or unsupported maintenance charges. Halima's undisclosed connection to Apex led to her dismissal and referral for financial investigation. Through a formal labor mediation process, she was required to withdraw her accusations against Ease, issue a written apology, and cooperate with recovery of improperly paid funds. She did not lose everything in one dramatic afternoon. Real accountability moved through letters, hearings, audit schedules, and signed findings. It was slower than revenge. It was stronger too. Yusuf served a 12-week unpaid suspension and lost his supervisory rank. Before returning, he completed training on lawful searches, evidence integrity, and abuse of authority. His camera access was restricted, and no single officer could edit or export footage without a second approval. He apologized to Samuel privately. Then he apologized to Ease in the same lobby where he had opened her bag. "I was afraid of losing my job," he said. Ease looked at him. "And I lost mine because of your fear." Yusuf lowered his head. "I know. Do not use fear as a clean name for what you did." He nodded. "I will not." Ease did not forgive him immediately. Forgiveness was not a switch another person could demand. But she accepted that his confession had helped expose the truth, and she allowed his later actions to speak over time. Primeline paid Ease her withheld wages and issued correction letters. The logistics company restored her interview invitation, but she declined after Meridian publicly advertised a new position for ethics and employee access coordinator. The job required records management experience, knowledge of complaint procedures, and demonstrated judgment under pressure. Ease applied with 42 other candidates. She sat for 2 interviews and a written assessment. Tola did not sit on the final selection panel because of her involvement in the case. Ease ranked first. When she received the employment letter, she took it home and placed it in her mother's hands. Her mother read the first line 3 times. "Permanent? Permanent. With medical insurance? Yes. Pension? Yes, Mama." Her mother lifted both hands. "God, you have finally remembered this address." Ease laughed until tears entered her eyes. Samuel later offered to pay for her return to school. Ease refused a private arrangement. "If you want to help," she said, "create something other workers can also access." So, Samuel funded a transparent, continuing education scholarship for contract and junior employees across the company. Applications were scored independently. Ease applied the following year and received support to complete her qualification. She accepted it without shame. Opportunity was not charity when the rules were fair. Meridian Heights changed in visible ways. The service elevator excuse disappeared. Visitors could not be separated by clothing, occupation, or assumed wealth. Assistance procedures for elderly and mobility-limited guests were posted at every entrance. Complaint reports went to an independent committee. Contract staff gained the right to a hearing before removal for misconduct. Camera records required dual control. Maintenance invoices were checked against access logs and equipment serial numbers. DARE also began spending 2 hours every month working from the public reception area without advance notice. Not to catch people, to remain close enough to hear them. He learned that leadership from the 21st floor gave a beautiful view and poor hearing. Samuel joined the Accessibility Advisory Group without salary. He inspected handrails, elevator timing, and emergency procedures. Whenever somebody introduced him as the CEO's father, he corrected them. "Retired mechanical engineer first," he would say. "Father second." And Ease continued to call him Papa Samuel. One rainy Thursday afternoon, exactly 93 days after the incident, Ease stood near the reception desk, reviewing a new visitor access guide. She wore a turquoise blouse again, but this one was new. Her mustard skirt moved softly as she walked. Around her neck was a permanent employee badge. The old broken lanyard remained inside her desk drawer, not as a wound, as evidence. At 3:18 p.m., an elderly delivery man entered through the revolving door, carrying a small package wrapped against the rain. His grey shirt was wet at the shoulders. Mud marked one sandal. He moved slowly toward the elevator. A newly hired officer stepped in front of him. "Use the back entrance." The old man looked confused. "I was told to deliver this to the 6th floor. The front lift is for visitors." "I am a visitor." The officer glanced at his wet clothes. "You are a delivery man," Ease heard. The lobby seemed to hold its breath again. She walked over. The officer straightened when he saw her badge. "Ma, I was directing him to service access. The service elevator is available?" "No, Ma. It is under inspection." "Then why should he wait in the rain?" The officer opened his mouth, then closed it. Ease pointed to the policy mounted beside the desk. "Every lawful visitor enters with dignity." "Read it," she said. He read silently. "Open the elevator." The officer pressed the button. When the doors opened, Ease held them while the delivery man entered. "Which floor, sir?" "6th." She pressed 6. The man smiled. "Thank you, my daughter. You are welcome." The doors closed. Nobody knew whether the man had a powerful son. Nobody asked. This time, it did not matter. And that, perhaps, is the clearest measure of character. Many people become respectful after they discover money, influence, or a famous surname. But dignity that depends on status is not dignity. It is fear wearing good clothes. The real test is how we treat the person who cannot reward us, promote us, or punish us. The old man moving slowly before the elevator. The contract worker, whose badge carries smaller letters. The cleaner, whose name executives never learn. The frightened witness who needs protection before courage becomes possible. A polished building can still hide a cruel culture. A respected company can still fail its weakest workers. And a kind act can be more than a moment of emotion when it is followed by evidence, accountability, and reform. Ease did not change Meridian Heights because she rescued the CEO's father. She changed it because, in the moment when silence was safer, she refused to let another human being fall.